Here we go, people. It's Invisible Walls, episode 177 on GameTrailers.com. We are the lonely ones left here in Los Angeles while our comrades go to the land of the rising sun to cover Tokyo Game Show. Are you guys jealous?
No, I think we did. We got a better deal. I mean, it's been a lovely week in Los Angeles. The weather's been really nice, and Gears arrived, and there's been some fun games to play, and you look at what's been going on in Tokyo Game Show, and
it doesn't matter how good or bad the show is. Going to Tokyo,
going to Tokyo is an awesome place to visit.
Have you been to Tokyo?
I have. I have had the pleasure of spending 3 weeks in Tokyo a couple of years ago, and it's a beautiful city. Love it. I would rather go back not when half the games industry's there.
Anyway, we are trapped here in LA. The good news is, thanks to the wonders of the interwebs, we have been able to follow and monitor all the stuff going on over there. Actually, I woke up this morning and I had a message from Ryan saying that yesterday during Tokyo Game Show there was an earthquake.
Wow.
And then everyone's phones started going off in unison. Like literally it sounded like an alarm inside the building because everyone's phones have this same alarm. And then people started scurrying to the exits for safety. It ended up being a 4-point something, which isn't that bad, but I think it's still scared the living hell out of Ryan Stevens, which I don't think is all that difficult in the first place. So we do have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of news breaking at Tokyo Game Show, despite the fact that maybe not a lot of games were debuted. There's a lot to talk about on the Nintendo and Sony front, definitely. And folks, here it is, Gears of War 3. We're going to be talking about it at length on this show. You already kind of heard from everyone, but I'm going to introduce them anyway. Brooks Huber running audio for us today.
Yeah, and I got that echoey effect. This is fun. Let's make that happen. Don't worry, everything's going fine, but when you're doing the headphones and audio, whatever.
You can fight through, Brooks.
I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. And you already heard from Marcus?
Yes, I am here, and no FPSs this week. We had a little bit of grief last week after the Call of Duty episode, but ironically, people bitch about us putting Call of Duty on, but it was our biggest viewed episode in several months.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Well, I don't think it was a big surprise to us. Mike Damiani is on the show today.
Hey, y'all.
And Daniel Bloodworth, fresh off his review of Gears 3, is here to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and it's been like a month since I've been on the show.
Yeah, it has been a while. So
you've been traveling.
Yeah, I was in Germany for 2 weeks, and then
you went
San Francisco last week.
You went to Gamescom, and then you stayed there for a little bit of a vacation, and then you went up north, and so you're finally here. Welcome back to the show. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get straight to it. All right, so I know we pumped up Gears and Tokyo Game Show, but there's a couple games. Well, actually, a couple games rolled into one we want to talk about first. It's the Shadow of the Colossus Eco Collection, now in sparkling, spanking HD.
And 3D.
And 3D if you have the equipment.
Sorry to talk over you. This topic was requested by Mr. Bloodworth. He wanted this on the show because, in his words, he wants to fight Mike Damiani about this.
He felt at odds with Mike Damiani's review of the collection.
Yeah, so I've brought popcorn. I think we should just sit back and let him go at it.
All right. What's up, guys?
First of all, explain. You have not even told me what your issue is. So, for the last week, a week ago, he comes to me and goes, Mike, I'm fighting you on the podcast. And I'm like, why? He goes over Shadow Colossus Eco.
He's a smart guy, though. Why would he give you his arguments so you can go and build a counter
Nothing from that. So I'll let you explain. I won't make any assumptions. So what was your issue?
Let's hear it, Blood.
Yeah, well, I mean, first I'll give it to you. I hate doing these kind of reviews anyways because,
These reviews are tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, you
go back.
There's
2 different games.
Yeah, that's terrible too, yeah.
And also, they've been upgraded, to HD, although, not all of the game has, really.
Yeah, they do like a weird, it's more like an upscale than full,
they haven't really redone anything. They just polished it up.
It's not fully built from the ground up type thing, the whole ordeal they give you.
Remastering a DVD or something.
Yeah, so it still looks good, but it's not this holy shit effort. It's, it is what it is.
But yeah, I mean, I just felt like the whole tone of the review was so harping on the controls, and then I reread it. It sounded okay, except it's the main thing I have with this control issue is because you're saying it's it doesn't stand the test of time, whatever, and it was never contemporary. It never controlled like a Mario or anything like that. It was always its own funky kind of thing.
No, the controls sucked then, and the controls suck now.
Yeah,
let him finish.
Basically, though. But I mean, yeah, that's what it comes down to. So it's if the controls
should he not point
weren't,
that out? That the controls still suck?
But if they weren't an issue for people back then,
They should have been an issue for people back then.
Yeah.
I should stay out of this, but I'll let you guys go at it. But I'm just.
Let me just say, Daniel,
not so much Eco, more Shadow of the Colossus.
Let me just say that, like, my memory of those games before I played them, especially with Shadow of the Colossus, is that I remember some iffy things with the controls, but like it still felt good to play, and I just had this really good memory of playing Shadow of the Colossus when it first came out. When I was playing through it again and playing through Eco, which Eco was the first time I'd ever played through Eco. I had never touched Eco before this. The playing Shadow of the Colossus, like the controls, it just didn't feel as good as I remembered it. I just had more issue with it this time around, and I think that the fact that the first time I played it, I was just so amazed by the game, like. The fact that the controls worked, I was like, you know what, this is just an amazing game. You know, these controls, whatever, they work. They're not trying to be like, you know, as you said, modern controls refined. It doesn't handle like with precision and stuff. It's a little bit more loose feeling, floaty feeling. But this time around, it's really got on it just bugged me. I was like, this is ruining to a degree this like immersion. This game is all about immersion to me.
Well, that's funny because to me, it actually lent itself to that. The struggle of the controls was like the struggle of fighting this creature.
Well, for me,
you know,
like,
and like having to climb that, and it's like, you know, knowing what to do is one thing, and then actually accomplishing it, it's like, you know, it lends to that sense of being able to take it down.
I get to a degree that it's supposed to be difficult to like scale these giant things, and to me, the difficulty is figuring out how to get up there. And once you do, it is like it's difficult to do, even though you know how to do it. It's still difficult to execute. But the problem is, like, it's not the meter, the grip meter. Everyone's like thought I was complaining about the grip meter. It has nothing to do with that. I like that mechanic actually, but I keep hearing this excuse from people who disagree with the review that they're trying to explain the controls are as they are because it's the role playing of the game. That the Wanderer isn't some like super like extraordinary hero. He's skilled with a bow and arrow. That's why his accuracy at the bow and arrow is great, but he's not a swordsman. That's why the sword skills with him are terrible. And I was like, I never had any problem with the sword. It was just how he moves. It's how he physically moves and how he jumps.
Yeah, the animation has a lot to do with that, I think.
The horse.
See, the horse. And the other thing, the horse, okay. When you're going in tight spaces, I learned to just let go of the analog stick, and it does auto steer. Like it does, like have a little bit of smart AI to it. When you're in open fields, there are just sometimes where you just nudge the analog stick, and it just is like veers to the left or right. I mean, you get used to it, but it's just like so like it's not refined enough to me. It just like oversteers. Like everything is just like over exaggerated at times, and then at other times you don't have like this. There's no finesse to it, and I get the argument. That's the game. That to some people that's it. It's not supposed to be finesse. Everything else about that game I loved. And that,
but see, that's the thing that's to me is strange because okay, it's like the controls. Okay, they're a little bit of an issue or whatever, but to knock down the entire gameplay score when you say all this other amazing stuff about it, and again, it's like if we don't think this is such an incredible game, then why are we looking forward to The Last Guardian so much? There's a reason that's there. And
I'm not looking forward to The Last Guardian because of the controls in Shadow of the Colossus.
No, that's what I'm saying, though, is like the controls are not what you remember about Shadow of the Colossus as much. It's that whole, the rest of the gameplay mechanics, what you're doing in that game.
That stuff can be great and stuff, and like the experience you can say is like of like nothing you've seen before. But my philosophy has always been like a game is the whole thing, everything, every component mixed up. A game can't be perfect or near perfect if like for me the controls, one of the crucial elements. You play a game, you don't watch a game. If the controls are that like have that many issues and flaws with it, it's going to get a lower score with me, and that's why it took off a chunk. More so, I know we've been talking more about Shadow of the Colossus, but honestly, it was Eco's controls that like drove me more insane. To be fair, I don't like giving out numbers, but like Eco dragged the score down more than Shadow of the Colossus. If it was just Shadow of the Colossus, it would have probably been a higher score.
That's
ding,
where
ding,
a lot
ding.
of
All right, I think you guys have both run out of steam. All right, the three of us who were not a part of that debate, we're going to be like judges at a UFC fight. Marcus, who do you think won the debate and why?
I gotta say, and first of all, put my hand up. I've played neither game. I wasn't a journalist when they first came out, and I had really no interest in the game, in either of them. But I gotta say, I'm siding with Mike here because you can have all the gameplay conventions in the world. I mean, it's like having a beautiful car, but if you have this amazing car and it can't fucking steer straight, or you have to bend double to change the gears or whatever, it becomes totally null and void because I know I wouldn't have the persistence to try and battle through those crappy controls to try and sample some of this amazing gameplay. I'd throw it away.
Brooks.
I haven't played Ico yet. Shadow of the Colossus still has a soft spot in my heart. I'm looking forward to replaying that. I never had an issue with the controls. I don't see
Yeah, that's
that.
the thing. Is like to me, I feel
Yeah,
like
no, you had your chance.
Shane?
Mike, hands down. I'm right there with you. You can't make excuses for games. It's like either the controls work great or they don't. And if they don't work great, then you got to call it out. I mean, what if there are some people out there who can't get past dodgy controls, like Marcus? Some people are a little more tolerant of stuff like that than other people. Apparently, you are, Blood. You were more than willing to look past the controls to get to the stuff that you liked. Marcus isn't willing to do that. So in our reviews, we have to make sure we mention stuff like that and grade games accordingly so that people of all types can appreciate the final scores that we put on our reviews. Great debate, though, guys. Tokyo Game Show. Here we go. Now, I think the biggest announcements have happened at that show before the show actually started. So Nintendo had a press conference for Japanese press only. We were not invited. We even reached out to them. They're like, no, you're not allowed to go.
There are a lot of guys that knew Japanese that couldn't get in. So.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is they streamed the whole thing. The stream looked pretty good, so I feel like we were kind of there anyway. Well, the thing about Nintendo at TGS is usually they don't go. So the fact that they did this press conference before Tokyo Game Show is a big deal. Number two, they're catching a lot of flack from me, from pretty much everyone at this point. Everyone's wondering if the 3DS is going to be viable going forward. Rumors about a redesign of the 3DS. And what do? They just show a megaton of games for the 3DS. So they have the press conference, which lasted, about an hour?
Yeah.
And then they just start this roll of trailers that lasted like an hour, even an hour longer than the press conference. It just went on and on and on. And they had like these, first of all, their production values for those things are horrible. Dude, that Animal Crossing stuff that they did, I felt so bad for the
They were in the
developers.
corner of a break room. It was
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah, they put like a plant on
So
the table to
boring.
make it seem okay. But they showed a ton of games. Now, the big announcement for Japan, Monster Hunter 4 coming, did they say exclusively to the 3DS?
No, they didn't
No.
say exclusive, and that's probably why the stock dipped, because the analysts didn't believe that's going to stay on 3DS.
Which I don't believe it either. They've made way too much money off the PSP with that franchise to
And
just
the
lock
port
it
for
off.
Tri is coming by the end of the year there, so that's gonna hold them over and get some momentum as Vita comes out.
A new Tekken game. that
Yeah,
had a
I played that at
really-
Gamescom.
Oh, it was at Gamescom.
Yeah, they actually are doing 60 frames per second in 3D.
That's
Really?
pretty impressive for that system.
3D.
The
Yeah.
trailer for that was a little goofy.
Oh, that was
Oh,
hilarious.
Harada
I love that.
crash.
I
Having
didn't
talked
pre-
to both of those guys, it's a lot easier to appreciate, but yeah.
I don't know. I spoke to both of them too. I just didn't find it funny, but I'm sure the fans maybe found it interesting. But what were some of the other big game announcements? They showed a ton
They
of
showed
Mario.
Fatal Frame with
Well,
AR cards. That
yeah.
was interesting.
Well, it's funny that they started it off, not announcements, but it was supposed to be a 3DS press conference. They start off with Zelda.
Yeah.
They show off Skyward Sword, and I was like, well, maybe this was a trick or something, you know.
And show off they did. I was just talking to Mike yesterday that up until I started watching the videos from this press conference, my interest in Skyward Sword was, I wouldn't say it was low, but it was low compared to most Zelda games. And now that I've watched the demonstrations and the trailers they put out for that game at TGS, my anticipation for that game is like through the frickin' roof.
Yeah,
They
yours
say-
and everybody's. It
I
just
can't
seems to
think
have
of another game
exploded.
I'm more excited for at this point.
It looks like Nintendo actually is showing that they actually care about Zelda now, because, as you said, I don't think it was just you. I think a lot of people, even anyone who claims to be a hardcore fan, would admit that Nintendo was kind of letting this game fly under the radar for a
Yeah.
long time, and all of a sudden, boom, blitz.
Boom is right.
And you could see, because on like Walmart and other sites, like the pre-orders for it just like followed the press conference. You know, it just like went up.
I think that's
And-
going to be the only game I pre-order this holiday season.
I was just saying that yesterday.
No, they're saying that this is going to be, was it 80 to 100 hours of
They
gameplay? I'm
always,
saying?
Yeah.
they
50 to
always,
100.
they always say that
Yeah.
thing. The game,
40
it-
to 100.
This is a game that really varies, big difference, anywhere from 30 to hundreds of hours, depending on who you are. So that number on this game is.
But I mean,
like,
they're
is
talking
bold.
about for a first playthrough, right?
Right.
You know,
Even-
yeah,
and
even
Twilight
plus-
Princess was already around the 50 mark, which
They
was
said-
pretty
I don't know if
big.
it took me that long. I think I finished that in like 35 or something like that.
They always say like it's around 40, 50 hours minimum to 100 plus hours. It's a typical thing, but the one thing that they were saying a lot, it actually came out of the Nintendo of America Twitter feed during TGS, is that there's 100 plus minutes of cutscenes coming from a company and
It
developers.
doesn't do cutscenes.
It's like, hey, we don't care about story that much game. Oh, there's 100 plus minutes of cutscenes in this Zelda game, the most ever. They confirmed there's like a new game plus mode, the boss rush, and then they showed off a trailer about the upgrade system, which
Yeah.
is probably the newest thing they've shown about
little controversial,
Zelda.
I think, because and again, I was talking to you about this yesterday. The way I feel about Zelda is it's kind of a perfect compromise between a typical action adventure and an RPG for me, because I'm not a huge RPG player. And sort of upgrading your weapons in such a way kind of starts having it stray off in that territory towards a more traditional RPG. So it'll be interesting to see how they work that system into the game. So let's keep going. There's a lot to talk about. No 3DS redesign. What we did get is this funky cradle that they're selling for $20. I guess you essentially snap the 3DS into it. It gives you another analog slider.
Yeah. And it takes like a AAA battery to power, or
it's
a
single
battery.
AAA battery.
A single AAA battery, and then it adds. It replaces, I believe, the R1. One of the shoulder buttons it replaces, and then it adds 2 more. So you could have a total of 4 shoulder buttons now. And if you actually see the photos from the side and stuff, the grooves, it suspiciously looks like the Wii U like grooves and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe they're getting this thing geared ready to be another Wii U controller.
And maybe that's a hint at what the redesign is going to look like as well. Because it's going to happen.
I hope it doesn't look like that, because the one problem with this thing that people are complaining about, it's so bulky now. It's no longer portable.
Yeah.
You can't put that in your pocket. You can't take that around with you unless even the separate cradle thing, that's not going to fit anywhere. It's something
Cargo shorts.
They need to, hopefully they are smart with the redesign, but like the only good thing about it is they're playing catch up. They're putting on the features that it should have had in the first place, and it just points out more that Nintendo probably didn't know what they were doing at
Totally
first.
screwed
That
up.
the 3DS is just rushed out, period.
Yeah.
But it's good that at least they're doing it and having it ready so soon. So games like Monster Hunter, which you really need that second
Yeah, you have
analog
no
pad, will
choice,
be
yeah.
there. And they said other games will use it. Like Kingdom Hearts will use it. Metal Gear will use it. So we'll see. It's nice they have it, but the way they've integrated it so far is ugly.
Surprised they didn't show the Wii U to Japan,
No, because they billed it as a 3DS press conference.
but they showed Zelda.
I think it was because Zelda is like coming out so soon, they had to do something with it. It was the exception.
I'm going to shift gears and talk about Sony at Tokyo Game Show. So, yeah.
And that's
Not a whole lot to
that's
talk
Mike
about.
D snoring, not me.
Yeah. So they took our guys. It was supposed to be on like a 40-minute trip on a boat. It ended up lasting 2 hours, I was told.
Was that last night?
Yeah.
I heard about the Vita boat.
Yeah, apparently it did not go as planned. Apparently the system isn't really going as planned either, because they announced the battery life specs. Oh, boy.
Yeah, well, the battery life specs are about the same as the 3DS, right? Except it charged faster. But then they say the reason that to get that lifespan, you have to keep the screen at default, turn off all the wireless functions, and
Turn off Bluetooth.
turn off the speakers.
Basically, you have to have the system
headphone,
turned off.
Yeah, and you've got to play it in bright sunlight, and you're not allowed to have anything plugged in. You can't have any games in the system or
Yeah.
anything at all. But you can look at the box.
And
You can't even look at the system. It drains the battery, apparently.
Well, the other thing that really, really bugs me is that they're going away from memory sticks. And
No, this is the killer, man.
Oh,
Like the
yeah.
battery life, I think we've already been kind of buttered up by the 3DS. And truth be told, it's still better than the 3DS because the 3DS charges 1-to-1. At least the battery on the Vita charges faster than it
And you
leaks
see
out.
they're selling charge kits. You
Yeah.
buy a charge kit and then you just do it on the road.
But the memory, man. And it's not that they're like, we're not giving you any memory with the system. It's the pricing of the memory.
And it's proprietary.
Right.
Yeah, it's not useful in anything else. You can't use anything you have already.
Yeah, you can't use the memory sticks that we all bought into for the PSP.
See, yeah, at least the 3DS, you can use an SD card of
Anywhere,
any choosing.
on
yeah.
anything. In fact, I think toasters have SD card slots in them at this point. But this is proprietary, new memory, and what was it? 32 gigs is like $100 and some. Is that right?
I can't
can't
remember.
remember
I
what
don't
the
remember. This
pricing
one was
was.
overpriced.
The pricing was
even compared to Best Buy prices. I mean, never mind going
It's like
online
2
and
gigs
looking on
is 20,
Amazon.
25,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, 2 gigs for like $25 or $30. So you have no onboard memory, or what is there, like minimal? Like they said, some games may be able to save on the system memory.
Well, what they're saying is I think some games actually will save to the game
the card.
and other games will
Yeah.
need the memory.
Why are you all surprised? Can I just throw out UMD? Can I throw out mini disc?
Because they already have a more memory format, maybe?
No,
Yeah,
can I
I
just
mean-
throw out that when it comes to these sort of things, Sony have their head so far up their own ass.
Yeah, but
they
memory
breast
sticks,
muscle
Yes,
you
shit.
can
came
use
with
them in their
memory
cameras
sticks,
already. Like, I bought memory sticks. My wife uses them in
Vio
her digital
laptops use
camera,
them.
and her Vio laptop uses it.
I mean,
My PC tower has a slot for it.
We just had this same conversation almost about Nintendo in the first half of this segment. These two companies, and people will say I'm being racist or stereotypical, they have this. The two Japanese companies have this fucking arrogance that they can, force people to buy this brand new stuff and then fuck them over 2 years down the line.
It's not an arrogance; it's a tactic.
It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, Apple is starting to go the same way over here, which
Apple does all of that crap.
Yeah,
For instance, if you want to record footage off your iPad, you have to buy this proprietary thing that costs like $50. I mean, it's the same bullshit.
I have an iPad 1, thank you. I wouldn't buy an iPad 2, but I mean, it is exactly the same situation, and it takes the piss. They need to start, realizing that we're in a recession. Gamers don't have a shitload of money, and if it comes to buying something that has a memory card system that works with the old stuff or whatever, they will say, "Fuck you, Vita. We're not interested. You have a crappy battery life. You're basically taking the piss."
Well, I think we can see now why the Vita's price is what it is. That's why we were completely blown away. I think whenever I predicted the price, I was like, "Oh, it's going to be like $320, $340," and it came in at like $299, $249,
$249 for the Wi-Fi only, $299 for the 3G Wi-Fi.
Right, and I was totally blown away by the price, and now I see why. Because if they'd actually paid to put the memory inside the machine, it would have come in at what our estimates were. So, what's the better situation, though? I mean, spend less for the system, be able to play some games and save them to the cart, or
buy an iPhone
and pay less for the system, or pay more for the system, have that on system storage.
Yeah, I mean, I guess having it cheaper is always going to be better, but it's kind of a pain.
But not when everything's proprietary though. I would take the cheaper if they cut out everything. If I could buy my own memory card from anywhere,
like gouging us on the cost of the cards.
But right? I mean, this is one issue. My biggest issue from what I saw from TGS so far, just from the press conference, is that so many of the games they mentioned there are gonna be on PS3 and on Vita. And
so
I'm like,
point, right?
Why the hell am I going to buy a Vita when I can play this on my PS3? And yes, there'll be plenty of people, I can play it on the go and stuff.
For 3 hours.
It's
provided the screen's
have
turned
fun
off.
playing it for 3 hours. And if you're a mobile person like that, traveling around all the time, that's great. But that's not where I'm going to be playing. If I can play it on a bigger screen and, enjoy it from the comfort of my home, I'm going to be playing Metal Gear Solid 2, 3 HD, the HD collection, Zone of Enders HD collection, all those HD collections they announced that are going to be on Vita too. I'm playing those on PS3. I'm not playing them on Vita.
I mean, the thing is, what they should do and what they will probably never do or want to do is, if they're going to do that kind of thing, have the PS3 game basically include the Vita download, right?
Like
digital
copy,
like a Blu-ray does.
One thing I will guarantee you is that there will be no Vita units on sale by themselves when this launches over here, and the minimum you'll have to pay is probably about $500 for a GameStop or Walmart or Best Buy bundle, because they'll bundle in. Yes, you need a memory stick. Yes, you're gonna have this shitty one particular.
Well, you'll definitely be able to get it without that stuff. But yeah,
I don't think so.
They'll be pushing
I think there's gonna.
Well, that's the other thing we forgot to mention here, is that they announced the launch date in Japan. It's December 17th. 17th, is that right?
Yes.
No U.S. date yet, though, right?
Nope.
Right.
This next year.
Uncharted's a launch game. There's 26 games at launch.
Well, now 26 games, you can use that loosely because some of those are just apps. Like the Nico Doga is not a game. Right. So it's 26 games / feature. If you include Face Raiders or whatever from 3DS as a game, or not Face, but the video playback. That's not a game. So there's 26 unique applications. Everyone loves
Twitter,
that term.
Foursquare, Facebook.
And then of those, Uncharted's probably the strongest one they've got going. And I don't know how well it's going to do for them over there, though. But
all right, so let's go around the horn. I want you guys to both talk about both the 3DS and the Vita and say whether your interest in each of those systems has gone up or down based upon his TGS showing. Marcus, go.
I'm not really excited by the games that, to be fair, Monster Hunter, Animal Crossing, they're not really my cup of tea. And the prospect of shelling out $20 for an ashtray with a clitoris attached doesn't really strike me as a lot of fun anyway. The Vita, it's funny, I was really liking it at E3. I got to play it, and every time Sony opens their mouth now, I just get less and less enthused, and I'm beginning to really just get over this whole handheld gaming thing and just stick with my consoles, and if I want to play a game when I go out, I'll just use my iPhone.
Mike?
I'm glad for 3DS they announced a lot of games. A lot of them we already knew about, though, so at least the software is finally gonna be here, which that gets me excited. I'm gonna have stuff to finally play on it. The analogs, I want to do analog. I just don't like their solution right now, but I'll take it. It's only going to be like what, $10-15 here probably. Vita, I learned my lesson with 3DS. I have no interest in getting that at launch. I'm going to wait for them to do a redesign or something. And just the games they showed, like nothing intrigued me enough or like wanted me to screamed, you got to buy this at launch. You got to buy this in the first few months.
Okay, Bloodworth.
Yeah, I'd say with 3DS, it makes me more confident because, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that even though it doesn't appeal to me, I think it's going to really give them strength in the Japanese market, especially with how big Monster Hunter is over there. And that just, you know, at least that means that there will be some momentum happening for the system, and it makes me look forward to what will be coming out. The Vita, yeah, some of this hardware stuff is kind of disappointing. Yeah, none of the games that they talked about really, you know, spoke to me, you know, as far as new game announcements. So maybe a slight dampering there, but I think I'll probably still get it.
I think my enthusiasm for the 3DS probably still is right where it was. I didn't see a lot of games that they announced that I really care that much about, but I would agree with Bloodworth that just Monster Hunter alone buoys that system in Japan, and ultimately that's going to get other developers to make games for it, and those are going to trickle down to the US, so I think it's going to bode well for the 3DS. It's very discouraging for me to see that snap-on piece of crap that they're trying to ask you to buy. It just lets me know that my 3DS that I bought is going to be obsolete in a couple months or 6 months or whatever. I'm going to have to sell it, get another one. That pisses me off. The Vita, pretty much what I expected. I didn't expect the battery to last too long. I'm not surprised Sony's using proprietary media. They do it all the time. I'd agree with you that, you know, there's some issues there with why would I play this game on a small screen when I can play it on my big screen at home. There's a lot of people who don't play games at home and do travel a lot, and I think it'll work for them. All right, so here we go. It's time to talk about the game that I called the jock of video games on bonus round one time. That game is Gears of War 3. After a 3-year wait, it's finally here. Bloodworth played it for review. I am about halfway through the campaign right now. I had played a lot of multiplayer in the beta. Mike, have you played it at all?
I played a bit at San Diego Comic-Con. I played part of the single-player campaign, multiplayer, and Horde mode. So that was a few hours. So not probably the least of anyone here.
What about you, Marcus?
I looked at the box. It's really cool.
He just got his this morning.
No, my copy actually arrived this morning, so that's something I'm going to play. But I actually stayed away from all the trailers and the betas and everything. I liked Gears 1, okay. I really like Gears 2, so it'll be interesting to see.
So what do you think, Blood?
Yeah, well, I think
obviously we know what you think. You gave it a...
There's Brooks here.
Yeah.
You didn't ask Brooks' opinion? Did he play the game?
Do I not exist?
Have you played it, Brooks?
I've played the beast mode and I've played multiplayer at this point, but I'm a big Gears of War fan, so I've been looking forward to the campaign and keeping away from spoilers. So go.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny because like you see these comments, so like, you shouldn't give this game to a Gears of War fanboy, and I'm like, man, I could not have cared less about it.
Dude, I don't think there is a single Gears of War fanboy on this entire staff.
That guy right there, Brooks.
I don't know about that.
I wouldn't say he's a full-on fanboy. I mean, he likes
Yeah.
the franchise, but he's not like
I enjoy it.
He's not like you with driving, or you Rohan with Call of Duty, or Shane with American football.
But no, I even after playing all the multiplayer stuff and going into the campaign, I really wasn't hyped or excited about it or anything. It was like, okay, let's get this done. And I thought it was a really great campaign. I thought it was a really great way to end this trilogy, and I thought they stepped it up in a lot of different ways. And it's just, it's one of those games, because it's funny because I'm like Marcus, where a lot of times where like these like straightforward linear games don't really do a lot for me, but it's done so well and has so many great big moments throughout, and they take the time to, I feel like they cement you in the world a lot better than the past two games did.
No, I think I might be a little bit of your counterpoint in some of the discussion here, because I would kind of disagree with that. I do feel like playing through the campaign, it does feel like a little bit of a dinosaur to me, because there is just that one path you can go on. You can't interact with hardly any of the world. There's invisible walls everywhere. I'm starting to feel that games like this, while they're streamlined for like the mainstream and so they're easily digestible, that even games like this at this point have to start doing things that every other game is doing. And it's like, I just feel like most of the game is set up so that you're just shoved down this cattle chute with someone with a whip cracking it on your ass the whole time to keep you going. There's some parts where you go to open a door and you have like ammo sitting by the door. The cutscene happens. You go through the door. You're like, fuck, I need that ammo. And then the door slams and you can't go back. It's like, it is a dinosaur of game design. And I get that, once you kind of lay down that foundation with the first one, it's really hard to change it. And it was a trilogy, and they probably wanted this game to be a lot like the first two. But I feel like my patience is starting to wear thin for that franchise, so maybe it's working out well that this is the last one.
Well, you look at the first one. The first one was pretty damn innovative.
Right.
Like I said, it wasn't my favorite. And then the second one really refined and built on that, in my opinion. And I think, the fact that this is only the third one, and not the 5th or 6th or 7th.
Right.
That has a lot to be said for it.
I think they had a good opportunity at a couple points to really do something cool, but then they kind of go overboard. I think I actually read something online where someone was like, Cliffy is trying so hard to make people cry. And I think that is one thing I would say about this game is it seems like they try way too hard to be like sentimental and get people all emotionally attached to it. But the bottom line, these dudes are like huge juggernauts that like, for the last two games have shown very little in the way I don't even know how to explain it. It's like trying to get like that jock that in school that just goes around and like hooks up with every chick and doesn't care about her to suddenly like care about Valentine's Day. It's like it doesn't work.
It works in Glee, apparently.
Which I have never watched. What do you think about that, Blood? Do you disagree?
I understand what you're saying. But I mean that's the way I felt about those characters, and I feel like this game did a much better job of cementing me into their world and making me feel a little bit more like they're real people. And again, there's like this whole world, like it feels like a cohesive place to me. Like you have those other people out there, the civilians that just hate them. It's like, you screwed us over. What are you doing
That
here?
is one thing I did love about this game. And the one thing I really liked about it is when you're on the ship and you're just kind of wandering around, there's all these little vocal snippets of people that are talking about what it's like to live someplace where you never get anything new. So
Yeah.
they're reading a book for like the 50th time.
Oh yeah, the crossword puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, don't write in the
in the
crossword puzzle because other people have to do the crossword puzzle. And I also like, too, what you said, how the world has a continuity to it. Instead of like getting on a ship and now we're going here and now we killed this and we're going to get on a ship and go over here, it is like a singular world that you go through where you go from one encampment to the next and you hear about the struggles those people have had to survive. Resources are a big deal, water, food, ammo, and things like that, and it's carried out throughout the whole game. So I definitely agree with you there. Like, they've done a better job of setting the tone and making you feel like you're sort of hanging around with these people instead of just along for the ride that goes from one place to another, and it's hard to connect all the dots together. I would definitely agree with you on that point.
Yeah, and I just think too, like, there's just so many like really just cool moments, and I'm not sure about where you're at. I mean, you say halfway, but I don't know if you've done. Have you done the
I'm
blimps
halfway
yet?
through the third
Don't
act.
forget spoilers. We're not allowed to give away spoilers.
Yeah. I'm keeping that well in mind. But yeah, you did the blimps.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts there. And I think you're coming up on another really cool. It's like a short scene, but it's really fun to play through. I think when you get to the last area, it's pretty different than anything Gears has done as
Good.
far as environments
That's good to hear.
So how does it stack up? I mean, of the three, you've played all three.
I definitely think it's the best Gears game because I didn't care about the other two. So
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, I would agree too that it's the best campaign of the three Gears campaigns. It's the same damn thing. It's like you run into a room, the enemies flood out, you hide behind a piece of cover, and you pop out and you shoot them with your weapons.
yeah, I feel like there's more dodging this time though, and that's something I kind of appreciate. Like I know you hate the gunkers, but I actually like the gunkers.
Yeah.
And the also the guys with the diggers.
The enemy design I love. I love using the digger as a weapon. It's a ton of fun. The enemy design is awesome. The sounds of the enemies in this game are incredible. Like, I don't know how you create a sound from something that doesn't exist, but their sound guys are freaking amazing. Like those blimps, for instance, the sound that those things made as they were like breathing in and expirating to keep the blimp afloat. It's awesome. And so I was really impressed with that. The pacing is amazing. Like, it does really just keep going. It's like nonstop once it starts. There's very little downtime. It's a lot of fun, but like I said, it is very much Gears. You come into a room, the enemies flood in, you take cover, you kill them all. Maybe another creature comes out, you kill that, you move on. most of the big set pieces are always behind a turret, which is kind of what they always fall back on in that series. I'd like to have some action like you'd see in the Uncharted franchise there. I think Uncharted is well ahead of Gears in that regard as far as creating these moments that aren't always the same thing. You're not always behind a turret when all the crazy stuff is going on. All right, so we talked about single player a good bit. Let's move on to co-op and multiplayer. Obviously, you can play the campaign with 4 people online. How does that all work out?
Yeah, so you can either play through it the same as if you're just playing through it again. And there's also added an arcade mode, which is really fun because then it becomes more competitive. So higher value targets, like if an enemy takes longer to take down, you're going to get more points for them. The longer your guys stay up, you're going to get multiplayers and things like that. And also,
now, how do items work?
That's probably my biggest beef with the whole game is I think it may be because of the leaderboards or whatever, but like you literally will come across like an ammo stash, pile on all the stuff you want, go through a door, and then end of the chapter, come into the next chapter, and you're back to your character's default weapons.
Now, is it a race to get ammo? So if you're the first person to grab the ammo, does it disappear for everybody else? Or
it does, but there's you can actually share ammo. We didn't really do it that much, but and then the other thing that's cool is that because you're playing with friends, they can show you like the little Easter eggs, right. And if they pick up a collectible, everybody gets it if they haven't gotten it yet. So it kind of helps you along to getting some of the higher level unlockables because there's some funny things that I haven't got to see yet, like the laugh track.
Now, Horde Mode 2.0, pretty drastic upgrade from the first Horde Mode, which has been copied mercilessly by every other game in the world since then. There's actually almost like a tower defense element to it now, where you can set up turrets and you can set up defensive barriers and things like that. Pretty much changes the whole thing pretty drastically, right?
Yeah. You get money for kills, and then you can use that to buy new guns, or you can use it to set up fences or turrets or decoys, and then as you spend more money on those things, then you can, get higher level ones. So, your fence will turn, you get a spike strip that turns into like a barbed wire fence, that turns into like a laser fence. And then I think decoys turn into sentry turrets, stuff like that.
Bosses mixed in too.
Yeah, bosses every 10th wave. So I think it took us 8 or 9 waves to get through a boss round because it was just so hard, and they would change it up every time. And so and things like, I'm not sure how you're supposed to kill a berserker without the Hammer of Dawn.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. Now, Beast Mode, they flip the script. You actually become the bad guys, and you're hunting down the good guys.
Yeah, you start out with just low level tickers and things like that. And you actually use the wall tickers that they told us you use those to tear down the fences and stuff. And then you move up into getting the Cerapedes and the big maulers and things like that. And you're just trying to kill all the AI cogs before time runs out. And so the leaderboards are more time-based.
Now, competitive multiplayer, the one thing I would say is they actually listen to the feedback from the beta. So they've adjusted some of the weapons and tried to balance it a little bit.
Yeah. The Retro Lancer definitely has a lot more of a kickback. And I guess they said they added something to make the sawed-off shotgun a little bit more visible, so you know to keep out of the way. I definitely like stuff like Capture the Leader. I just think that's a really fun take on a Capture the Flag kind of mode. And then but I'm not that big of a fan of the deathmatch because it's just the guys that are good at that are really, really good at that.
Shotgun roll.
Yeah, and so you have to play a lot differently in the multiplayer than you would in single player, but then it becomes more of a team thing. You want to stick with your group and make sure people are covering all sides.
And the big question here is the servers, because I remember back when Gears 2 came out, we were sitting in the same room gushing over the multiplayer. First 2 weeks, pretty much worthless because the server sucked. And I know they tried to do a stress test with the beta, but that's nowhere near what it's going to be like when all y'all are on there and there's a million people playing at once. So I think we just need to keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the nightmare that they've worked for these extra 6 months or whatever to avoid.
Yeah. So overall, your opinion?
For me, as somebody that just saw it as the jock game or whatever before, that was just whatever, I actually have come out of this game with a lot more appreciation for it than I expected, and it definitely made me a fan this time around.
Yep, and I think my overall opinion would be, if you love Gears, go buy it. Don't even think twice. It's the best Gears ever, hands down. If you didn't like it in the past, or you're hoping that they change the game or evolve it in some way, Really, the only big changes are in multiplayer. I would stay away, but overall, high quality game that I think most people will be able to enjoy. All right, that's it. 177 in the books. One of our better shows in recent memory, I would say. Lots of good stuff to talk about. Lots of good games to talk about. Gears of War 3. When do you guys think we're going to see another Gears? Ever? Do you guys think that's it?
Launch of the next
Now,
Xbox.
I haven't seen the end of the game, so I don't know if they leave it open for another
Well, but
game.
he said in the past that it's closing the trilogy, but they would be stupid to not continue.
Yeah, it's
going
gonna
to
be a prequel, and you'll see like how Adam Phoenix fought him in the bird.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
the
they said they
Cogs,
haven't
I would
decided
say.
what they're going to do, but we'll see.
That'd be my
But
I-
does the end of the game kind of leave something open, or do you think they would go the prequel route?
There's
I
gonna be
think-
an RTS called Gears of Halo Wars, and then there'll be Gears Reach.
It could happen. You're right.
It closes things out pretty
Pretty well.
definitively. So your prequel would probably be the easy route, but they could come up with something else, I'm sure.
All right. So everyone, make sure you go to our Tokyo Game Show page over the weekend. Those guys are busting their humps to bring you the latest and greatest from TGS. GameTrailers.com/TGS. Show Ryan and all those guys over there who are busting their asses some love. I know they will appreciate it. We'll see you guys here next week. Invisible Walls is up and out.